Hello and welcome. This week we are going to look at ways in which we can insert new data using PHP and a web browser interface to get that data into our MySQL servers. So instead of having to actually key in the data, we're going to be able to do it via a web form, and it will upload to the appropriate tables. So that's the first part of this exercise. And then in the second video, I'm actually just going to go over different ways that we can display our data, because up until now we've been working with a lot of tables and we've been looping through rows of tables, and I just want to show some different ways we're going to do that, and that's what's going to end up being in the lab this week. And so I'm just going to walk you through an exercise on how we handle inserting the data and then different ways that we can display that, and that'll be in the second video. So without further ado, let's move on to our data. So this week we're going to work with the contact information form that we made in Lab 9. This was the introduction where you created your first database in SQL, and then we displayed it using PHP. So we're going to work with this again, and we're going to add a form to this so that it can communicate with our database and add more information to it. So what I recommend you do right now is go ahead and open up your Lab 9 PHP file. I have that already handy. Okay, right here I have, this would be the Lab 9 file. I have already gone ahead and saved it into my Class 11 exercise folder because there will be a separate lab. So this one I will walk you through, and then the lab you will be doing on your own like we've been doing the last couple weeks. So go ahead and save your contact info or lab9.php, whatever you called it, and save that now into your class 11 and we can get started. So from the top, we're going to be using the same dbconnect .php file, so you're going to want to make a copy of that and place it in the same folder with this as well. All of this top information is the same as we have been doing, so this is just telling it to connect to the database. So we're going to leave this piece alone, where it's telling us to select the first name, last name, and email from, in my case, my table is called contact info. It's going to query that result, and then we're going to display it down below. So we're not changing any of that. What we are changing is the fact that we're adding a form at the end that's going to allow us to insert that data. So I'm going to kind of scroll all the way down to the bottom here, just past where it has the table information. Let's go ahead and create our form, and that I'm going to do still within my PHP. So we're going to do a bunch of echoes like we had before. So I'm going to do echo, and notice this is an important piece to pay attention to. The elements that are coming out of our database are within this while loop. This is outside of the while loop. We're just going to add this to the end of the form. It's going to be the last row of our table. So that's what we're actually going to be creating. But before we do that, we need to open up our form. And now this one you're just going to have to trust me on, because I'm not going to go into detail, but this is going to be the action of our form, and it is action equals submit. And basically what this is doing is it's going to process this form on this page when the action and submit get triggered. You're going to see where we build this, so just trust me on this. If we had a longer class, we would go through this in more detail, but for right now, I just want to get you through being able to do this. And our method is post, and then this is our form. There are a couple ways that we can do this. You can do this all in one long echo, or you can echo each line. I am going to go ahead and do this in one long echo. So I'm just going to tab in just so I can kind of keep them all lined up, and I'm going to open up a new row. Then I'm going to go down, and we're going to open up our first cell or our first column in this. So I'm going to do a TD, and we're going to do an input type equals text. So none of this should be foreign. I am using single quotes inside of my double quotes because we have double quotes out here. So I am using single quotes in here so that we don't cancel them out. So type is text. Name, this is important. Name equals And it's going to have to match this because we're going to be working with that. So first name, and then I'm going to close out that input and close out that column. Go to the next, and actually I'm just going to copy this because it's all exactly the same, except instead of first name, we're going to do last name. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. One more row, and instead of first or last name, it is email on this particular row. Then I am going to close out my row, and I'm going to close out my table. After that, I am going to actually open up a paragraph, and we're going to put our submit button in. So I'm going to do another input type equals submit, and this is all still within our echo statement. Let's see, value equals, I'm going to put add contact, so that's what will show up on that button, and I will close that, and I will close my paragraph. Okay, so now this button will show up at the bottom of our page, and the one very, very last thing I have to do is I have to close up our form. So now we have created the form that we are going to be using, so I need to close this with my quotes and my semicolons, so now this is one long echo statement. So this is our form, but it doesn't do anything yet. So I'm going to go ahead and save this just so we can take a look and see what things are going on right now. So let's go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go upload this. So I need to go out to FileZilla. I'm going to go out to exercise where it is. I'm going to get into the correct folder. I'm going to upload my contact info as well as that DB Connect. And you know, I didn't change anything with that, so I'm just simply uploading it. And now I'm going to go out to my web browser and we're going to take a look. Here we are out in the browser. This is what our form looks like so far. So if you recall, it did before just have our first name, last name, email in this table, and it displayed the results. Now we have these forms that we can fill out for our email address, our last name, and our first name, and then click add contact. Right now it's not going to do anything because that add contact submit button isn't really set to trigger anything. So that's what we're going to build next. So here we are back in our contactinfo.php, and we need to now create the stuff that's going to allow us to process this form. This is all still going to be within our PHP, and I'm actually going to get rid of this table that we had before because we've now closed it up here. I'm going to go right after this, and I'm going to hit return a few times. First thing that we're going to do is I'm going to make a comment, and we're going to say process the form to, let's see, add new information to the database. Now remember, up here in our form we said question mark action equals submit. So now we're going to create this action variable. So action equals, and this is just going to be blank. It goes with this. So if is set, this was covered in the book, saying basically if the form has been submitted, and we're going to use $_get. We are going to be getting information right on this page, so even though this says post, we are getting this information, and you'll see how this differs when we're finished, and then you're going to be able to look at some other web pages, and you're going to understand a little bit more about what's going on. So we have $_get, and then we have some square brackets, and we have the word action. Oops, and this is what it's going to be looking for, and we need to close the first set of parentheses and the second set of parentheses. And then we need to open up our if statement, and I'm going to close it right away so I don't forget. Inside of it, we are saying action equals $_get. So this is from our form. We're saying it to get the action of whatever that may be. So let's see, get action, square bracket, and semicolon. So this is our if statement. We're going to do another if statement. So this one is if action equals, because there's two equal signs, submit. So that is what we're saying. Basically what we're saying here is if it is submit, and so up here where it says action equals submit, that's what we are looking for, is if in our form we say if get is action, so here is action, and it equals submit, we are going to go submit this. Then we need to open it up and tell it what it's going to do. So this is all going to be inside our if statement. I am going to close it though, so I remember to do so. And then I'm just going to give some breathing room in here, and we're going to add a bunch of stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set some variables that work with our form. Just like up above, I'm going to just kind of leave myself a note. So it's get variables from the form. And now we're going to set those. So we're going to do first name because they just need to match up. We're going to do first name. I'm just going to set these up and then we're going to do these all together. So last name and email. These are our 3 variables that we need. And they're all going to be the same. And what we're going to do here is we're going to be calling a function. This function is going to be defined a little bit later, and it's called get post. And what we're going to pass into it is our first name, or rather just the variable. So this is going to pass into our variable whatever we pull out of the form. So we have get post, and it's just going to be the same for each of the rest of these. So I'm going to copy this, and instead of first name, it's going to be last name, and this one will be email. So these are our 3 variables that we're going to need. And then, let's see, still within our if statement, this closes the submit if statement, if you want to remember what that's for. So now we need to insert. So this is going to be where we did select. So let me scroll up to the top here. So just like we did a SQL select statement to get the data that appears in our page. So let me go out to our browser. So just as we did a SQL select statement so that we could pull this data, now we need to use something called insert so that it takes whatever data we put into these fields and inserts it into our database. So just like that SQL select. So we're going to go all the way down here, and I am going to leave myself another comment. I'm going to insert the new data into the database. So that's what we're doing. That's what this is going to be. And you're going to see this is very similar. And I am just going to call this, just so I know what it is, I'm going to call this insert SQL. So just like we called the other one just straight up SQL, I'm going to call this one insert SQL. And that variable, we're going to equals, and now we use the word insert. So just like we did select before, we're doing insert, but we also have to say where we're inserting it into. So these are the first 2 important words for this. Insert into. Then we need to name our table that it's getting inserted into. And in my case, it's called contact info. And we know that because it says so right up here. That's where we are pulling the information from. That's also where we're putting the information into. Then we use the word set, and set tells us that we are going to be putting all of this information in together. I'm going to be doing some line by line concatenating just like we did with the prior lab. So I gave myself a space here. I am going to put my quotes, and I'm going to close that with a semicolon, and we're going to do the same thing. So insert underscore SQL period equals. Now we're going to insert each of the elements. So I'm going to open that up again with my quotes. First underscore name equals. Now this is where we have to be really careful because I'm concatenating here, but we also are thinking about this as we're saying that it equals and then we have a quote around it. So let me show you what it looks like without the concatenation. So in this case, it would be first name equals $ first underscore name. And then there would be another single quote, and that would be the end of our line. But since we need these little quotes to show up, we need to concatenate so that this stands apart. So I'm going to put my double quotes right here, followed by a period. And on the other side, I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to put period and double quotes. And then you can see by the coloring, that's what keeps these together. And now this has gone green, so that's gone to a single quote. And I'm going to put the double quotes on the other side of that because this is what we need to appear, and a semicolon. So yeah, this gets really confusing. I am fully aware of that, but just bear with me. So easiest way here, I'm going to copy this line because we need to do the same thing with our last name. Now remember, these need to line up with whatever your columns are named. Mine are just first name and last name. So last name, and then the very last one that we have is email. So I'm going to copy this again. And instead of last name, this is email, and this is email. the variable is email. So that is our insert. So that's what's going to put the data into the table. And just like before, where we needed this little result piece, we need to create that as well. So I'm going to go down here right after my insert, and we're going to do result equals my SQL underscore query. And this part needs to be named the same as the variable we just used. So insert underscore SQL and that line. This last piece is what it's doing is it's going to be inserting in the ID, because remember each of these has a primary key. So we need to get it into the ID. So I am going to be saying $contact ID equals my SQL underscore insert ID. And as you can see, this is a function like we've done before. I'm leaving it blank because remember our ID is auto-generated. And so by indicating that we are doing that, it will place it into the form automatically for us. Okay, we're almost done. We just have a couple more things that we need to do. Next, I'm just going to give myself a couple more spaces here. This one is important because what this is going to do is the piece that I'm going to place in actually is going to, once the form information we hit submit, it processes the data, it's going to refresh our page and basically clear out that field, but it's going to input the data. We're going to see that new data show up in our form. So I'm going to just leave myself a note here. So it uploads the information and refreshes the page. And what we use for that is a thing called header. Now this is kind of tricky because header and location, which is what we're going to put in it, is location : ? It's kind of tricky because what this says is it needs to load, the header needs to load this location before anything is output from our page. This includes any form of HTML, any form of echo. So let's scroll all the way back up. So fortunately for us, we have some PHP right up at the top. On this, you're going to have to trust me because I know from some experimenting earlier that in order for this to fully work, we need to do something that's called turning on the output buffering. Basically what output buffering does is without it, our browser tends to get pieces of the PHP as it's going through the script instead of getting it all at once. And by putting output buffering on, it's going to collect all of that and it's going to process that, and so therefore it actually takes less time to download and render the HTML because it's not being sent to the browser in pieces, it's being sent out all in one. So we need to turn this output buffering on. Some web hosts already have this turned on. I may be able to on ours, but for right now, this simple little predefined function will take care of that. So right up after the opening PHP and before my require once, so it'll be before anything happens, I'm going to type in OB, so output buffering underscore start, and it's a function, so there is parentheses and a semicolon. So that'll make sure that that actually loads properly. So remember I mentioned this get post function. Right? We have this get post set up for our first name, last name, and our email. Well, we need to actually go and pull that up. After this closes, so after our big if statement closes, I'm going to go in and set up our function. And I'm just going to leave a little note so I know what this function does. This function gets the information out of the form. And it sets it as variables. And you'll see this in a moment. So let's see. So it's function. We did this a couple weeks ago. Get post, so you can see that's the part that matches this. And it says get post var. Now that just stands for variable. We're going to open it and close it. Inside the function, if you recall, is where we conduct the actual action that needs to take place. So what we're saying is we're going to use another command that's set up in PHP already called return, and it's basically saying return a particular value or result. So we're going to say MySQL, and this is a predefined function, MySQL real escape string. So what this MySQL real escape string does is it allows special characters to exist in this string. So if we have some sort of an apostrophe, say it's a last name that's like O'Connell, that you can put the apostrophe in there and other types of things based on the character set that it's in there. So we're going to leave this as MySQL real escape string, and then inside of it we are going to do, here's our $_post saying, hey, get this from the form, remember? Because we use that method post, and get that as var. So this is what got passed into it. So whatever is in this get post, so first name, last name, email, is being subbed here by just this variable. So this function will work with any of these with whatever is in between these parentheses. So var, I need to finish my command up, and the parenthesis and the semicolon, and we already closed it up. This should be everything that we need to make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. I am going to go out to my FileZilla. I don't need to re-upload the DB Connect, so I'm just going to upload my contactinfo.php. It's uploaded, and go out to my web browser, and I'm going to click refresh. Notice it doesn't look any different, but now this add contact form should work. So let's think about what we need to add here. So let's just continue in this, since other than my own name that I have up here, I've been doing these as characters from the Lord of the Rings. So we're just going to add another one here, and we're going to add Pippin, also known as Peregrine, last name of Took, and we'll just make up an email here. We'll just call him Pippin at we have Hobbiton, since it's where they're all from, hobbiton.com, and we'll keep it consistent. I'm going to add contact, and it didn't work. Okay, so our code didn't work. So what does that mean? It means we kind of have to go through this and figure out what is going on. I was going through this really quick, and what happens, notice how it's select first name, comma, last name, comma, email. That's correct. Let's scroll down here where we're doing this insert. If we were to remove this, it would be insert into contact info set, space, that's good. First name, that's okay, but there's no comma here. So we need a comma and a space, because otherwise it's seeing this as all one big squished up thing and it doesn't know what it looks like. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back out and upload. So we're going to upload, and it's there. So now we're going to go back out to our browser. I'm going to refresh. It's not going to look any different again, but we're going to try this again. So we're going to go add Pippin again at hobbiton.com. And now if we hit add contact, hopefully this works. There it is. So Pippin took at Pippin, and notice here's that little question mark, because this is what we said when it takes that action. So it's adding that in. But the other thing is, so we know that it's here and we can keep adding them. Let's see, Mary is his friend. We'll have Brandy Buck, and we'll say Mary at, we'll put him at Hobbiton too. That's like kind of their whole thing. Or here, since we know this is one of his mushroomsforever.com, okay? So then we'll hit add contact. So there it is. Let's go take a look at our database so we can see how it's adding this. Okay, I'm already logged in to MySQL Workbench, and I've found my database. I'm going to go find my contact info, and I'm just going to open the one that has the little lightning next to it so we can see where stuff is added. And there they are. So we have Pippin and Mary. If we were to go out and add another, so I'm going to go back out to my browser. Let's go add another Legolas Greenleaf. And let's see, we will put him at Legolas at, we'll put him at Lothlorien, even that isn't, no, that isn't where he is from, lothlorien.org. We'll just make that up. Okay, so we're going to add that. Let's pop over before I hit add contact. Let's just pop over. So he's not here right now. So this one's all null. We're just waiting for the next one. So I'm going to hit add contact. Now it's added it. And if we go back over here, and I click this little refresh, there it is. It's just been added to our database. So that is what we are going to be doing with the first part of our lab. I think that covers it. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to display things other than tables. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you.